Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Mem Daled Amud Beis at the very top. The Gemara continues. Hilchos Brachos. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yitzchok bar Avdimi Mishum Rabbeinu Al Habeyo Val Mine Kufra Betchila Mevarech Shahakol Uvasoi Borei Nefoshes. When a person eats eggs or types of meat, he makes a shahakol beforehand and a bracha achroina of borei nefoshes. Aval yerok aloi, but on a yerek, on a vegetable, he will not make a bracha achroina. He doesn't have chashivus enough to make a bracha achroina, according to this opinion of Rav Yitzchok bar Avdimi. Rav Yitzchok Amar, not to be confused with Rav Yitzchok bar Avdim, but Rav Yitzchok himself, he says, Afilu yarko aval maya loy. He said you would make a bracha achroina on yerek, but not on water. Rav Papa Amar afilu maya. Rav Papa says you make a bracha achroina even on water. Marzuta Ovid kirav Yitzchok bar Avdimi, the first opinion. Rav Simi bar Ashi Ovid bar kirav Yitzchok. Whereas Rav Simi bar Ashi goes like the second opinion of Rav Yitzchok. V'simon achad kitrei v'trei kechad. And the simon is, one is like two, meaning to say that one, referring to Marzutra, he goes like what's mentioned as two names, Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. Whereas the two names, that is Rav Simi bar Ashi, he goes like the one name, like Rabbi Yitzchak. Om Rav Ashi, Ana Zimno, Dechimad Karina, Avidna Kikulu. He says, when I remember, he says, I go like all of them, meaning I make a bracha like Rav Papa on everything, including water. Tnan, the Mishnah says, here it's a Mishnah being quoted from Masechet Nida. Kol sheton bracha la'acharov, ton bracha lefonov. A bracha that requires to be done afterwards, a bracha achroina, has already requirement of a bracha rishona before. However, there are those things that require a bracha rishona that do not require a bracha achroina. So Bishlam Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi la puke yeraka. It's very good according to the first opinion of Yitzchak bar Avdimi, which excludes a yerek, which just has a shahako without a bracha achroina of a borei nefoshes. And also the Rav Yitzchak la puke maya. Also, it's very good according to Rav Yitzchak, who says that there's no bracha achroina on water. But Rav Papa says you make both a bracha rishoina and all of these things, as well as a bracha achroina. So then what is it coming to exclude? Says the Gemara, lapuke mitzvahs. It comes to exclude making a bracha after mitzvahs. We make a bracha before partaking in the mitzvah, what we call a bracha that is a bracha over la'asiyos, and right before performing the mitzvah, I say, but we don't make a bracha afterwards. But according to the opinion of the Bnei Ma'arava in Eretz Yisrael, when they would make a bracha after mitzvahs, like after the mitzvah of tefillin, so what is this coming to exclude? Says the Gemara, lapuke reichani, comes to exclude smell, aroma. We said that a person makes a bracha rishona because asul lehanois min ha'olam hazeh beli bracha, and therefore it requires a bracha on incense. We said on different things, but a bracha achroina, it's not yet enough to have chashivus, and therefore it does not require a bracha achroina. Amar Rav Yonai, Amar Rav Kol Shehu bebeitza. Beitza toiva mimenu. He says that anything that is the amount of a beitza, then he says there's nothing better than that size of a beitza than a beitza itself, than an egg itself. That's the most healthful thing a person can eat, he says, for the goof. Ki also Ravin Omar Tova Beyasa Megugolta Mishisa Kaisi Sulta. He said, greater is an egg that is softly roasted, tzliya kala, than 36 beitzim of of flour, the amount of 36 beitzim of flour. Be'aso ravdim, ki asa ravdimi omar tava biasa migulgalta mishiso. He says it's also greater, he says, than the 60 amounts of, which is comes out to be 36 beitzim of flour, the soft roasted egg. But mitviyasa, however, it's hardly roasted, is better than me'arba, than 4. Mivushelta kol shehu kebeitza. He says if it is an egg that is cooked, he says in the size of a cooked egg, then beitza toveh men lebar mibisru. There's nothing better than that which is cooked, the size of an egg, better than an egg itself, except for the exception of meat. And meat has the size of a beitza, that's even better than the beitza itself. Rabbi Akiva Omar, the Gemara quotes the Mishnah, Afilu ocho sholak. Even if a person eats a very well cooked vegetable and he's koveya asuda on that sholak, so according to Rabbi Akiva, he makes a bracha of birkas hamazon, 3 brachos after eating that. Umi ika midi da have a sholak mezoini. Ask the Gemara, is sholak a mezoini? Rav Ashi bikelach shel kruv shonu. We're talking about a kruv, and kruv, a stalk of a kruv is considered to be zon. Ton Rabbanon. The Gemara brings a brayso in things that are good, healthful for a person to eat, and things that are not so good. Says the Gemara, tichol, which is meat that comes from a spleen, yafa lishinayim v'kosher lebnei ma'ayim. It's, he says, good for the teeth because it's easy to eat. However, it's not good for the person's bnei ma'ayim, and therefore the person can become sick from it. It's not good for his bnei ma'ayim. Karishan, however, leeks are the opposite. Koshin lishinayim. Those are very difficult for the teeth, very bad for the teeth. V'yafin levnei me'ayim, but they're very good for a person's intestines. Kol yerech chai morik. Any, he said, raw vegetable causes a person's face, his appearance, to then not become good. Takes away his toyar haponim. V'kol koten maktin, and everything that he eats that is not yet grown to its potential, so then maktin, it causes a person to be stunted. V'kol nefesh meishiv es hanefesh. Everything that is nefesh refers to something that is chai, that is eaten complete. So then, like let's say a small fish that is complete and it's something whole and it's also grown in its completeness, then that will also be good for a person. It's meishiv es hanefesh. V'kol karov lenefesh, and everything that is close to the nefesh, to a person's, to the animal's life sustaining force, then meishiv es hanefesh, which means if it's something that's close to the nefesh, referring to the animal, the Gemara is going to explain next to where it is killed, so then that part of the body by the neck is going to be very helpful for a person. The Gemara concludes in this brayso v'kol kruv l'mazoin v'tradin l'refuah. Kruv is good lemazon, like we saw before. In fact, we said Rabbi Akiva will say birkas hamazon, a person's kovei asud on that. V'tradin, however, when it comes to cooked beets, it's l'refuah, it's good for a person's health. Oiloi lebayis, however, woe is to a person's stomach, she'alefes oiveres besoichoi, that the turnip is eaten in that stomach. In other words, it's very unhealthy, very damaging for a person to eat turnips. Omar Mar, says the Gemara, Tichol, going back on everything that we just said to explain. Omar Mar, Tichol, that meat that comes from the spleen, is Yafel Lishnaim V'Kosher L'V'Nimayim. Ask the Gemara if it's going to be good for the teeth, but it's going to be bad for a person's intestines. My takante, what is the remedy? Says the Gemara, Nelase V'Nishtei. That means chew it very, very well, because it's good for the teeth. It's healthy for the teeth, for the gums as well. However, then, dispose of it, throw it out. Krishin, we said, leeks are koshin lishinayim v'yafin livnei me'ayim. They're difficult for the teeth, however, They're very good for the intestines. Maitakante, what is the remedy in order to get the benefit from it? Says the Gemara, the opposite eitzel lishalkinhu v'navalinhu. Cook it very, very, very well, and then swallow it so that you don't have to use your teeth by chewing it up. Kol yerech chai morik. Every living vegetable, meaning a raw vegetable, he says, takes a person's appearance away. And therefore, the Torah Arpanim is affected. That's if you eat raw vegetable right after a person takes blood out, he's let it out blood, then it's going to then take away his physical appearance. He says that a person who eats a yerek before the 4th hour, the person normally eats his first Suda of the day, so that's prohibited to then speak to other people. Says the Gemara, my time, why? Mishum reicha, because it emanates rather from his mouth a terrible stench, a terrible breath. Rabbi Yitzchak goes on to say that it's also for a person himself to eat a yerek chai, a raw vegetable, the first 4 hours of the day, before the normal meal. The Gemara tells, the 3 of them, they were sitting together. A raw vegetable was served to them before the 4th hour of the day. So the 2 of them ate. But Mar Zutra did not eat the raw vegetable. What do you hold? Is it because you hold that it's also to speak to a person who eats such a vegetable before the 4th hour because it causes his breath to be bad? We ate, and we're talking together with you. So you see that that's not a problem. He said to them, I'm like the other opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak. Svirally. I'm like the other opinion of Rabbi Yitzchak that said it's prohibited for a person to eat a raw vegetable before the 4th hour. The Gemara goes on to explain the previous brayso that we quoted, Kol Katan Maktin. Anybody who eats something which is small and premature, undeveloped, that's going to be stunting his own personal growth. Rav Chizda, Afilu Gidia Bar Zuza. Even if it's a Gidia that's fat and good, and it's very expensive, but it's too small, it's undeveloped, then it's not going to be helpful for a person. However, we're only talking about if it didn't grow a 4th. But if it grew a 4th of its completeness, then that's fine. Says the Gemara, Kol nefesh meishiv nefesh. Anybody, we said, who is going to then eat something that is complete, that is a nefesh, even though it might be small like a fish, but it's complete, so therefore it's meishiv es nefesh, very good for that person. Amar papa afilu giladni de begili. Even those small fish that are found in an agam, those fish will be very healthy for a person because those fish are completely grown, and therefore they're fully mature. They'll be good for a person. It doesn't go by the size, but rather the amount of growth. Says the Gemara, Kol ha'korov lenefesh meishiv es hanefesh. What does it mean? Kol ha'korov lenefesh. That's good also for a person. It means by the neck of that animal. Those meats that are close to the neck are going to be helpful for a person. It'll be meishiv es hanefesh. Amale Rava l'shamei ki maisis lon umtza de bisra. Rava would say to his shamish, when you go and buy a piece of meat, torach va'aisi li mehecha de mekar lebei boruch, then make sure you get for me the piece that is close to where the shchita is, where the shoichet says the bracha right before he shechs, which is by the neck. Kruv l'mazoin v'tradin l'refuah. The brayso said that kruv is good for mazon, for sustenance, but tradin, the tradin, the beets, they are good for refuah. Kruv lemazon in lerefuah lo. Ask the Gemara, kruv is only good for mazon but not for refuah. V'hotanya, behold, it says in the Brayso, shisha dvarim merapin es hachoyle mechalyo v'refuas and refuah. There are 6 things that heal a person, and they also bring refuah. Ve'elohein, kruv, v'tradin, meisisin. We skip the vash. The vash is should be yavesh maybe, but the Gropa takes out the word devash. Umeisisin. Meisisin is referring to the tavshil that is from the rechem, the kiba, the heres. Sorry, meisisin is a tavshil that is mint. It means that there's mint that is put into water, and that develops a certain soup maybe from that mint. So that's meisisin. The kiba, the heres. Heres is the rechem. The yoseres hakaved, and the outer layer, the covering of the kaved, of the liver. All of these things are actually going to then bring refuah to a person. So how could you say that when it comes to the kruv, it's good for mazon but not for refuah? Ela'ema kruv af lemazon. You should say that when it said kruv, it meant not only for mazon, it means even for mazon, but of course for refuah as well. Oy loy labaysh alefes oyveres besoiche. The Brisa said, woe is to the person who eats a turnip that passes his stomach. Eini asked the Gemara, v'ho omar le Rava l'shamei. Rava said to his meshamesh, ki chazis lifta b'shuka, lo temali b'mai korchta rifta. Don't tell me when you go to the shuk, when you see a lefes, when you see a turnip, what you will eat it with, together with bread. In other words, buy it without asking permission. You already know that that's what I want. So you see that it's a good thing. Omar Abaye mibli basar. Abaye says that's if you then eat it alone without basar. V'Rav Amar mibli yain, or if you eat it without drink of wine. Itma Rav Omar mibli basar. Rav says, like we saw in Abaye, that if you eat the turnip without basar, Ushma Amar mibli eitzim, without cooking it a lot. Rabbi Yochanan Amar mibli yayin. Rabbi Yochanan says, like Rava said, that if you eat without yayin, it's going to be harmful. Omar le Rava le Rapape Sudani. You who make wine with dates, we break the turnips, dangerous components, with cooking it with basar or drinking with wine. Asoin, but you you don't have a lot of wine. What will you then break down its components with, that you can eat it? Amalei bitzivi. He says also with cooking it with wood. Kiho davisu the Rapapa, the wife of Rapapa, basid mashlallah. After cooking it, tavla tamnon oifi parsaita. She would then bake it on the wood, and therefore by baking on the wood, that itself will then take away the components that are dangerous for the turnip. Tanu Rabbanon. The Gemara brings up Brisa, Dag Koten Maliach, a salty fish, Pa'amim Shehu Meimis B'Shiva, B'Shivasar, Be'esrim V'Shiva, V'amilo Be'esim V'Shloisha. He says there's a salty fish. When you salt the fish, there are times that it will kill a person on the 7th day, on the 17th day, the 27th day, and the 23rd day. However, we're only talking about when it is roasted. Velo mitvi, and not roasted. In other words, not roasted completely. Aval mitve shapir les lambab. If you roast it very well, then it'll be okay. Dilo mitve shapir lo yaman el dilo shosa basrei shichra. That which we said, they don't cook it, you don't roast it rather very well, and it will be harmful. That we're talking about is if a person doesn't drink wine, if he drinks wine after it. But if he doesn't drink wine after it, then it's not a problem. Avoshasa basrei shichra leslan ba. Sorry, the opposite. When is it going to be a problem? If he does not drink shichra, he doesn't drink beer, doesn't drink sheichar afterwards. But if he drinks sheichar afterwards, then it's not a problem to be memis. The Gemara quotes our Mishnah as saying, Hashoyse mayim litzamoy, a person who drinks water for thirst will say a bracha shehakol niya bidvoroi. La puke mai, asked the Gemara, what's this come to exclude? Rav Dimi bar Avin, because the Mishnah said when you drink water for tzimon, for a person's thirst, you'll make the bracha of shehakol niya bidvoroi. Ask the Gemara, what does this come to exclude? Rav Idi bar Avin la puke leman dechenkite umtsa. This comes to exclude one who will be choking from a piece of food, and therefore he drinks water just to dislodge the part of food that is in his throat. That person will not make a bracha even though he drinks the water then. However, if he's drinking water for tzimon because he's thirsty and it's going to refresh him, then he will make a bracha of shehakol niya bidvoroi. However, there's a machlokes about that. Rabbi Tarfon oimer borei nefesh al bois v'chesronon. The Mishnah says that Rabbi Tarfon argues and says the bracha rishoina on water for tzimon is not shehakol, but rather borei nefeshos. Ask the Gemara, Malei Rove bar Rav Chanan la'Abayi, Ramei Rav Yosef hilchas mai. What is the halacha when a person drinks water litzimon? Omerlei puk chazi mai ama davar. Go see what is the minhag there in the tzibur, and the minhag by us, of course, is to say shehakol niya bidvoro before partaking in the drink of water, and a bracha achrona of barei nefashos rabois v'chesronon. Hadron aloch keitzad mevarchin.